Good day, everyone. So, welcome again to our subject Foundations of Special and Inclusive Education. So, this is the continuation of our discussion in our lesson, which is making schools inclusive. So, last time we end here in discussing the producing inclusive policies, which is the second dimensions of making the school inclusive. So let us now proceed to the third dimensions, which is the evolving inclusive practice. So evolving inclusive practices is the third dimension to boost an ISCOM framework for schools where administrators must first try to create an inclusive culture among its stakeholders, then build better, more all-encompassing policies. So the goal of the first two steps is to ascertain habit-forming conditions which make procedures that are otherwise unfamiliar feel like second nature to us. So we want to reach a point where inclusive teaching practices are expected. So once this happens, we can start focusing on raising the participation and success rates of learners with additional needs inside our classroom. So moreover, the term evolving assumes that we already have strategies in place which we just have to revisit for possible tweaking. So it suggests advancement and positive growth. So which means we can look at these existing strategies and just adjust this according to the needs of our students along the way. So the two effective evidence-based inclusive practices that can be used in the classroom are what we call the Universal Design for Learning or UDL and the differentiated instruction. So let us now proceed first in discussing the universal design for learning. So in architecture, it refers to the structures that were made in such way that they can be used by customers or clients with a wide range of needs. So such designs ensure accessibility for all. So for example, an architect designs a commercial complex where ramps, elevators, escalators, handrails, wide doorways, sidewalks, and sign embossed in braille abound. So it is very user-friendly building. So obviously, the designer imagined that some customers might walk into the complex in wheelchairs or white canes. So the architect does not know if or when it's going to happen, but he anticipated it and incorporated it into his design anyway. So such in mechanics of the Universal Design for Learning approach to instruction, UDL refers to the design of instructional materials and activities to make the content information accessible to all children. So it is best used in a general education classroom where learners are different. So through the provision of delivering content and allowing students to construct learning in more than one way, UDL ensures that all students learn genuinely. So these are the three elements to UDL. So we have the multiple means of representation. So I'm so sorry for the noise um if it's enter in our voice record. Next is the multiple means of action and expression, and then multiple means of engagement. So those are the three elements to UD. So in UDL, teachers are supposed to present information and materials in many different ways. So taking into consideration that some students may have not fully absorbed the lesson the first time it was presented. So the concept of multiple means of representation is meant to ensure that all students are able to assess or access and understand learning materials. So after this, teachers allow students to express what they learned in various ways. And finally, the teacher uses different techniques to reinforce learning at the student's optimal level. So the principles of UDL, which sometimes overlap, are presented here. So I made the table that convey the UDL principle, and inclusive practice and examples of UDL implementation. So for example, in principle 1, we have the equitable use. So in principle and inclusive practice, inclusive practices are designed to be useful, appealing, and safe for all students, families, and professionals to use. So individual differences and various contexts respected. So we have the examples of UDL implementation and inclusive practices. Use UDL principles equitably and use culturally responsive teaching strategies and materials like mother tongue based multilingual education. In principle 2, we have the flexible use. So inclusive practices are designed to accommodate the individual preferences, abilities, and needs of the students, families, and professionals. So flexibility in providing choices for methods and pacing are exercised. Next is principle 3, simple and intuitive use. So inclusive practices are designed to be easy for all to use and understand. So now example of this is establish classroom rules and routines, just like what I've made before we start our lesson. I establish my rules and regulations and my conditions and etc. Use graphic organizer for synthesizing materials or develop scoring rubrics with the students when you are using assessment. For example, the assessment you use is essay, you have to make or create a scoring rubrics. Next is the perceptible information. So inclusive practices are designed so that they communicate valuable information to all through various formats. So the example is use technological and assistive devices to support learning. So for example, using PowerPoint presentation, or you can present it in the front using television, communicate with parents, or share information. Next is principle 5, that is the tolerance error. So inclusive practices are designed to minimize errors and unintended consequences by providing safeguards and warning to assist all in using them safely. So the example is the teach, study, and learning strategies, teach self-regulatory techniques, encourage students and foster their intrinsic motivation, and offer grading alternatives that are valid and appropriate. So the the goal of the tolerance error is to minimize the error during the class discussion. Next is the principle 6, low physical effort. So inclusive practices are designed to be used comfortably and efficiently without much effort from all. So the example is chunk activities and give more breaks. Or you can use teach mindfulness or provide additional support as needed. Last is the principle 7, size and space for approach and use. So the inclusive practices are designed for use by all, so regardless of their mobility, physicality, or way of communication. So the example is take advantage of seat arrangements and classroom furniture. So provide opportunities for outdoor work and allow technology as needed. So those are the UDL principles or the universal design for learning. We have principle 8 and principle 9. So principle 8, community of learners, that is the inclusive practices are designed to promote social interaction and communication for all. So the example is use project-based learning, promote collaborative activities such as fishbowl discussions or think, pair, share. So establishing strong homeschool partnerships and classroom check-in and check-ins. When regards to the differentiated instructions, according to Tomlinson, differentiated or differentiating instruction is a teacher's response to students' varying needs, interests, and learning styles. So it refers to a systematic approach to planning curriculum and instruction for academically diverse learners. So it is a way of thinking about the classroom with the dual goals of honoring each student's learning needs and maximizing students' learning capacity. So when teachers differentiate instruction, They use a variety of teaching and learning strategies that are necessary to meet the diverse needs of students in any class. So we have here the definition or the purpose of differentiating instruction or DDI. So all learners are unique and have varying interests, talents, strengths, as well as needs. So it is essential that teaching and learning experiences reflect this diversity. So to ensure engaged, successful, and flourishing learners, teaching and learning experience need to be designed in a way that provide opportunities for students to learn and demonstrate their understanding in varied ways. So differentiating instruction helps ensure that learners are engaged in respectful tasks and provide diverse means of learning that reflect their strengths and address their needs simultaneously. So the next question is, how is instruction differentiated? So according to Bender in 2002, identified elements of the curriculum that can be differentiated into content, process, product, and learning environment in response to students' characteristics such as the interest, the readiness, and learning profile. So, and as an overview, differentiation is achieved by providing materials and tasks. So, letter A, at varied levels of difficulty, with varying levels of instructional support, and by using multiple grouping arrangement that involves student choice and use varied evaluation strategies. So as a teachers, you must know your curriculum. So you are suggested to revisit or identify which are non-negotiable and negotiable learning objectives and at the same time the task. So you are also expected to know your students' interest, the readiness level based on diagnostic data, and learning styles or profiles or strengths and needs. So you may create a class profile to provide an overview of the class characteristics and needs. So next we have to identify and plan what and how to differentiate your material. So the goal is to start small and take simple steps toward differentiating instruction. So we have here ways on how the classroom manage during differentiated learning. So number one is explain to the students by the reason for differentiation. So make sure that this is understood by all. Next is use anchor activities, which students can automatically work on when completing assigned tasks to maintain a productive work environment and maximize instructional time. So for example of this are the activities that involves reading a chosen book, for example, for book report or journal writing based on a prompt, skills practice such as spelling, math, and use of manipulative objects, and etc. So next is assign roles during small group activities instruction to ensure accountability and a positive learning environment. So these are the examples. Facilitator, the recorder, summarizer, and timekeeper, presenter, and errand monitor. The fourth one is implement routines for a collaborative work. Letter A is to establish working groups. So by, for example, you group your students by interest or by readiness and etc. Have a plan for a quick finishers and have a plan for when to ask for help or the role of the errand monitor. So this is the example of the number 4. So for your performance activity, so answer the following questions. This is consist of 60 points. So put your answer in the comment section below by following the format. Your name, your block and your cluster, and your answers. I'm sorry, I don't have time anymore to change the deadline. So for the deadline of the submission of performance activity, that will be on September 11 on Monday, 8 o'clock p.m. So I will repeat the deadline of submission of performance activity is on September 11, 8 o'clock p.m. So number one is, what is the difference between mainstreaming and inclusion? Answer in terms of philosophy, teaching practices, services available, and student placement. And what is differentiation, and how different care accommodations from modifications? When should we accommodate, and when do we modify? So thank you very much for listening and for finishing this recorded discussion. So I hope you understand and learn something for this lesson. And if you have any questions or clarifications regarding the topic, don't hesitate again to chat it in our group chat. So again, the schedule of the quiz will be announced in our GC. So thank you very much, and God bless.